Life is the way that we live it. And what I want to demonstrate is how the work that is required of us to have a healthy sex life translates directly into how we live our lives, and how the body is neutral and it's going to process events, environments in the way that it is. It's going to have its pleasure centers. It's going to have its centers that is going to send you into stress. It's going to have its systems that is going to shut you down. And what only thing that differs is our associations, is our interpretations of the event. I want to share with you a journal entry that I did 6 years ago, because if you don't know a little bit about me, I have been actually documenting my life since I was about 16 years old. And in particular, in the last 13 years, I had a blog that was documenting my process of healing from childhood sexual abuse. I even started doing a documentary around that time as well. And so on, after about 2012, 2013, I have been documenting my process on the internet. And I've also been documenting my research, my systems, my daily experiences of being with my body, as well. So this is just one of the notebooks. As you can see, it's full of the work, my life's work. There's going to be moments where I'm going to kind of stop and I will explain after. So this was May 31st, 2020. Last night, I didn't buy another dime. The truth is, I hate smoking, at least right now. I feel sluggish and disconnected, but really, I was suppressing some emotion to move forward with my business. How many of you have been aware that you're using substances, you're using other events in your life as ways to suppress your true desire to do something in your life that you're passionate about? So where was I? I felt my body, this is where I want you to listen. I felt my body telling me no. Like when I want to watch porn and I feel absolutely nothing arousing me because my body is literally screaming no. And this is where the work happens, because now my body has told me no. I've had enough work and I have put in enough repetitions with daily presence practice to feel and understand, what does my body feel like when it's a no? It's not like when it's a no when I don't want to cook, when it's a no when I don't want to have sex, when it's a no when I don't want to go to work, when it's a no when I don't want to do this or when I don't want to do that. No, I have been able to identify for myself uniquely, what does a no feel in my body, and realize that a no in my body felt the same way. A no in my body, because in this entry, what is not clearly is that I wanted to go buy another dime of weed. I was a heavy weed smoker. I no longer smoke. And I wanted to go and do it again. I suppressed the urge the night before. And here I am, I'm processing. And after the event happened of me, we'll see, you'll see, processing what has happened, right? Because that's kind of what happens with our processes, especially when we're talking about like cutting off addiction and porn and things like that, is you begin to realize and lessen and decrease the action. And then you'll have moments like in this journal entry where I didn't go and I didn't get the weed. But then the next day, right, I'm sluggish, I'm disconnected, I'm aware that I'm in this space of feeling it, right? I'm sober and I'm feeling the impressions of my life, and I want to go out and I want to buy some more weed. But my body is like, no, because in reality, that's not what my body wants. That's not what it wants to do. In the same way that I felt the resistance when I would be a other unto myself is what I call it, and I would abuse myself with watching porn in times when my body didn't want to watch porn, but I would push myself to do these things because I didn't have the proper skills to experience life and have a capacity for life. So this is where we're building the capacity. When you begin to decrease the behavior, and then you are now faced with a moment where you are aroused to follow the same behavior because there is an emotion, there is a moment in life where it feels uncomfortable, but your body is clearly stating, no, we have been here before. We know what it feels like to stay in it. You have built some more capacity to stay in it, right? But then you're like, how do I now what this is before you would you would get the stimulus, and then you would do the action. For me, it was smoking weed or watching porn, right? I would feel uncomfortable. I would feel antsy, or anxious. I would be upset. I would be depressed, or I would just be numb. So I'm gonna smoke weed. I'm gonna do the porn. I'm gonna just go to the action, right? There's no space for consideration. So then over the years, I've been able to build the space between the stimulus and the response. So this is me documenting the space between the stimulus and my response. So my response and where I begin to create more space. And it was subtle, the decision, the gesture of taking off my jacket and slowly sitting down. I didn't feel regret, and I so desperately looked for a nudge, a push, a permission from some weak and out of touch, out of line part of me that will say yes. Because hello, there's always been that here and there in these moments, pero, which is but no. All bones sat, all flesh laid still. So, even in those moments when you're building capacity, excuse me, my phone is just plug you in. I have to flip. Let's flip me around. Oh gosh. Even when I want to, so even in these moments where you're building capacity, there is going to be a part of you, because right now that capacity is alignment. Alignment is uncomfortable. When you're first starting to build, let me look at you straight. When you first start to build capacity and you are getting back into that alignment with yourself, it is uncomfortable, especially when we're talking about things like sobriety. It is uncomfortable to get into that place because all of that integration and creating that baseline, it means that you have to be able to now sit with your environment a little bit longer. Sit with your outside environment that's bringing up something in you, and your internal environment, and processing everything that's happening and being able to sit, being able to soothe yourself and have the skill and have the skill of doing that so you can do it just a little bit longer. So, and in these moments, you are naturally going to possibly look for a reason somewhere in your body to tell you, you know what, we can just go ahead. But at this point, your capacity and to be in this moment and say no and honor your body has become so much more greater. And for me, it became so much more greater for me to honor my body than to abandon myself and to re-victimize myself and to violate my no. Because that is one of the things is we learn how to violate our own no's. We learn how to do that. And it's a really counterintuitive thing when our saying no to like honoring our nose and our bodies is the way that we honor yes to more life. So it can be counterintuitive for us when we've had these experiences where when instant gratification and pleasure are intertwined and haven't been separated for us, because childhood sexual abuse, while it is a physical violation, that physical violation for many of us is wired with pleasure. And that can be very difficult to separate when doing harm to yourself or being harmed comes with that gratification. So then, and it makes you feel good, because what we said earlier, the body is neutral. So what feels good, it's not, we associate pleasure, we associate the events, but the body is neutral to how it experiences it. So all of that to say that even in these moments where it is uncomfortable, we want to say yes to that part of ourselves to give us that instant gratification, that inner part of us that it's like, I just want to feel better. But if we learn how to do discomfort and have the skills to do discomfort, we realize that the discomfort has a much more lasting gratification and pleasure reward to our system. So even when I want to substitute for alcohol, because I definitely was like, well, I'm not going to smoke weed, but maybe I can get some alcohol. I saw a neighbor of mine, which I think that goes into more spiritual symbolism, because we live, depending on what you believe, we live in a world where it's spiritual, it's energetic. So even in these moments, you are being sent signals to double down on your capacity. Are you willing to stretch? Are you willing to go to this slightly higher baseline of capacity for yourself and for your body, and to essentially pass this test? I saw my neighbor and turned right back around saying, fuck, and realized the work always comes before the reward. And when I finally sat down and did the calendar, I felt a sacred satisfaction. And there's a little bit more to this but this is what I wanted to leave with, that because I have continuously by this time, 2020, we're talking about 7 years of work. Excuse me. We're talking about 7 years of work with building my capacity, somatic healing, sexual healing. Specifically, that for me, if you do the somatic healing, that is inherently sexual healing. We just have to include the whole body. It was in these moments after about 7 years of work where you realize the subtlety of the work, where you have to slow down. I had to, the subtle decision, our desire to instantly gratify and to settle the discomfort in our bodies is so much more quicker acting and than the counterintuitive choice that we have to make to sit in the discomfort. We have to learn how to do discomfort. I had to learn how to do discomfort. I had to understand that if I stood here long enough, slowly enough, I was going to get the sacred satisfaction. And all of this to say, and to encourage you, one, to document your process. That's number one. Documenting your process, because it allows you to slow down naturally, which is what we really need to do, is to slow down. And it helps you really undo the knots that sometimes happen in the moment of an event and life. Like life happens all at once. Sensations sometimes happen all at once. But when we sit down and we give ourselves 5 minutes, it doesn't even have to be that much, to write it down and then to read it out loud, it gives you a little bit more perspective. It's also to begin to begin to build capacity by writing, build capacity by slowly understanding what feels like a no and what feels like a yes. Like in your body, understand this feels like a complete no, this feels like a complete yes. And look for yeses in your daily life and look for no's in your daily life, because those things are going to naturally translate into the bedroom. Your body is you don't take off your body when you go and you have sex. You don't take off your body, when the sex stops and then you go into your daily life. It's all the same body archiving your life. And when we get to understand a little bit more and be able to kind of slow down some things a little bit more and like realize like, that yes, I feel it in my shoulder, or no feels like a constriction in my throat or in my chest, or it feels like a squint in my face. Or yes feels like a natural smile, or like it feels like warmth when like across my collarbone. When you and write those things down, because then when you have documentation and you can look back at it, then you're able to begin to decodify yourself. And this is how you build capacity. You build capacity by slowing down, you build capacity by writing it down, and you build capacity by going back and understanding and seeing yourself, how far you've come, where you have to do some more work, where you're like, I'm still there, because sometimes we're just in our heads and we're just in our bodies and we don't have reference points. So by writing these things down, it gives you more capacity, it gives you more reference points. So I hope that reading this a little bit, like me reading some of my process and like in real time, what it was and how, like what it was for me and how does it look, what did it look like for me in 2020, which looks completely different now in 2026. I'm much more, and it's so interesting because it feels slow right now. It was very slow in 2020 because that was an integration point where I was creating a new baseline for living. And I was doing a lot of things. I was building this business out. I was doing a lot. But, it was a new baseline. And, obviously the world what it was in 2020, right? But nevertheless, 6 years from now, like 6 years now, the immediacy in which I can detect a no, detect a yes, where I don't have to be as slow about understanding what my body is saying, that has all come from this slowness, this back and forth, this I didn't buy no weed yesterday, but today I want to buy me some weed, but I can't, and my body is not cooperating. All of these things are part of the work. And I'm so excited, and I'm so grateful that we're able to read some of this, and this is what I want for you to document this stuff, because then you have your own reference point. You can start to build your own systems, and you can see where and how your system works, because yes, the body is neutral, but the way that it happens is unique to you. We still have a nervous system. I have a nervous system. You have a nervous system. The best quality control out there is God, or whoever created this technology that is the body. So my body works more or less the way that your body works, but your signals and your interpretation and how you receive those messages, how your body receives those messages, are unique to you. And so therefore, the skills that you need to build to listen, while they may be unique to you, the baseline is really the same for most of us. internal, how do we receive receiving the stimulus, processing the stimulus, articulating the stimulus, and then also what does it mean for changing a behavior or updating a system to experience life. So this is, I know that this may have been a little bit everywhere, but I hope that it helped you some. And I hope that, you know, some of these tips about building capacity and how you can slowly do that as you are creating a more fulfilled sex life. I hope that this helps you. And if you want to hear, or if you want to hear more about creating a new baseline, building more capacity in your daily life so that it can translate into your sex life, let me know in the comments. Mwah.